الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا مولانا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. ولا يغضب بعضكم بعضا يحب أحدكم أن يأكل لحم أخيه ميتا فكرهتموه. Over the last couple of minutes we were mentioning with regards to one of the spiritual maladies in the form of Gheebah, something that we are commonly indulged in and one that we find so difficult to leave, and unfortunately, despite it being from the major sins, we don't even regard it to be a sin. Hence, never mind it being major, we don't even regard it to be a sin. In last week's Majlis, I was mentioning to you with regards to an incident, and then the topic had diverted a little. With regards to a professor who had read an article written by an alim, and this article was with regards to the harms of making Gheebah. And this professor then wrote to this alim that it's fine that you instruct us to avoid doing Gheebah and staying away from the Gheebah and whatever harms of Gheebah. But Gheebah is an entertainment, a pastime, which is very difficult for us to leave. So, it's always impossible for a person to leave something that they're going to enjoy so much, because there is enjoyment in it. This alim wrote back and said to him that it is entertainment for you and enjoyment for you, because you are the one who is doing a Gheebah of another individual. If it was the other way around, that others were making the Gheebah of you, would you then still find it an enjoyable pastime? You wouldn't enjoy it for yourself. You don't mind doing that towards others, making the Gheebah of others, but when it comes to yourself, then it's a different matter. On this I had mentioned that if a person wants respect, they should respect, and the topic went with regards to general respect that is lost in our times. So this alim had been instructed and said to him that just the way you would not like it for yourself, then you should not like it for somebody else as well. And this is an important point here, that if we ourselves do not want it, just like any evil for that matter, anything bad for that matter, whatever we would want for ourselves, then we should want the same for somebody else. Where we do not want that somebody does something wrong to us, then let us not do wrong to that person, to any person. And this way we do not want that others inconvenience us, then we should not put others through inconvenience as well. We don't mind inconveniencing others, putting others through trouble, but we don't want others to put us in trouble. So if somebody does do something to us, then we'll make sure to let them know that they've done something wrong to us. But it is fine we do the same ourselves. And this reminds me, Ammar bin Yasir radiallahu ta'ala mentions that ثلاث من جمعهن فقد جمع الإيمان الإنصاف من نفسك وبذل السلام في العالم والإنفاق من إقدار. So Ammar bin Yasir radiallahu ta'ala mentioned the three qualities. If these are found in an individual, then Iman is found in this person. This is either a saying of Sayyidina Ammar bin Yasir, or it is actually a marfu riwayat of Nabi Kareem sallallahu ta'ala sallam. Even if it is from Sayyidina Ammar bin Yasir himself, the topic and the subject itself is one that is substantiated and verified from various other ahadith as well. So he mentioned three things, meaning three qualities. That whoever possesses these qualities, then he has gathered within him, he has embedded in him Iman. And what are those three qualities? Again, there is no mention here of salat, saum, zakat, which are the ibadat, which are the fundamentals of Iman, but the qualities. Which shows us that it is not just the ibadat that we're supposed to be doing. Along with the ibadat, the rectification of the akhlaq, the rectification of our character, this is very important as well. These form part of Iman. And there are so many hadiths of Nabi Karim sallallahu ta'ala sallam which indicate to us these type of things, which again is away from that of salat, zakat, saum and that. Which means for a person's salvation in the hereafter, these are imperative. It won't help a person if a person has perfected their character and has very good akhlaq, a very good heart, person is very well mannered, cultured, but then they do not have Iman, or they have Iman but there is no farais in their lives, then they're not going to gain salvation merely on their akhlaq. And on the other side, a person has the ibadat, that is doing his ibadat in that, but there is no rectification of his akhlaq, his inner self, then this person will be deprived of qurb of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And there is also possibility that because of the crookedness of his akhlaq and his character, he will end up doing so many wrongs to other people that will then become a hindrance to entry into Jannah. That his situation and his dealings with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala may be fine, that he's passed in that department, because he carried out his farais, the amal that he needed to do. But then because of his matters and dealings with people, there he fails in that department. And until he doesn't pass in that department, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not allow him entry into Jannah. So Ammar bin Yasir radiallahu ta'ala, the three things he mentions here. First he mentions is insaf min nafsik. That to have insaf, meaning to be just within yourself. This can either be min nafsik or fi nafsik. If it refers towards fi nafsik, within yourself, meaning that there needs to be insaf, there needs to be justice within yourself. There needs to be equality within yourself. Within yourself, fi nafsik would mean what? It would mean that it is something that should come from within an individual. A person may be just towards people, why? Because they know if they won't, then they might be humiliated because of that. They may lose honor and face by being unjust to somebody. Or if they're unjust to somebody, then they'll get caught. Then they have the law to face with. So because of fear of the law, of authorities, of humiliation, or being defamed or so, a person may carry out justice. But that justice is not because they want to, it is because of external reasons and circumstances that a person will be just. And the other meaning, fi nafsik, from within yourself, that a person should have justice, insaf within them. That it comes from the heart. That whoever they deal with, you deal with them justly. Not that there is favorism. That you may deal in a certain manner with certain people and different manner with somebody else, based upon their relationship to you, based upon maybe their ethnic background, because of the color of their skin, the complexion, or because of some other social standings or so, that you deal with them in a certain manner and you deal with others in a different manner. No, that shouldn't be the case. And the fact that it is from within means that it becomes a habit of yours, that it is embedded within you, that on all occasions, whether it is somebody old or young, or whether it is even just to do with other people not even coming to know of it, you are just at all occasions and all times. There is insaf all the time within the heart. And the other meaning here is min nafsik meaning that insaf should be from you as well. Which means that, not that you want insaf and justice from others, but when it comes to yourself, then you deal with yourself differently. That you do not do justice with others, but you demand justice for yourself. That is what it means min nafsik. That it should be of nafsik, meaning that you are both ways. You give and you take as well. Not that you just demand that others should deal with me fairly, but we do not deal fairly with other people. Or that we have other expectancies, from people, and we do not have any within ourselves. Or that we bring about difficulty and hardship upon other people, but for ourselves, when it comes to ourselves, then we deal with ourselves differently. We want to be relaxed and chill, we don't want to do anything at all. But you want others that they should be doing. So when it comes to deen and shariat as well, everybody else should be punctual upon deen and shariat, but it's fine, we don't need to be punctual upon deen and shariat. This is also against this insaf in nafsik of being just towards yourself. That is not a case of you give and you tell other people that look, you should be living like this and that, you should be following this rule and that rule. That when it comes to yourself, you're not following those rules. So you want the whole nation and everybody else to be following certain rules, but then for yourself, there should be no rules. So what others and the command you give others, they should be following that and you should be following that as well. Shariat as well. Not that you're telling other people, behave this way, that way, this is halal, this is haram, and why are you doing this haram and that haram. And you're telling other people and expecting them to stay away from that haram, but then yourself you're not staying away from that haram. This is what he mentioned, al-insafu min nafsik. That person should be just. And this refers to the same what I was mentioning to you with regards to the gheebah as well. That we are happy and we find we do not mind that we do gheebah of somebody else. But then when they do gheebah of us, somebody else does gheebah of us, and that we do not like. That why somebody makes gheebah of me? Why does somebody slander me? Why somebody does this harm to me or that harm to me? Why does somebody think bad of me or why does somebody speak ill of me? But we don't mind thinking ill of somebody, speaking ill of somebody, slandering them and doing any harm to them, that's fine. So this goes against this teaching. Meaning that the iman, the qualities of iman are no longer, or the qualities of iman are not found within us. Hence, whenever we are doing a gheebah, we should think at that time as well, that look what I'm doing at this moment. If this was the opposite, would they like somebody else? And same with any matter for that matter. There's a complaint with some children, as you'll get knocking on people's doors and running away. So one child I mentioned him that, look, would you like that? Somebody did that to you. If somebody was to come at your house and knock at your house and run away and trouble you, you're not going to be happy with that at all. So when that's the case, then why bring the same trouble to somebody else? And that is general with everything else as well. Kama tadinu tadanu. That the way you're going to deal with others, and in English you say what goes around comes around. They say karni, we say barni. How you're going to deal with others, that's how you're going to be dealt with as well. If you're going to be just with people, then people will be just with you. And if it is a matter wherein you are just with people and you do not get justice, remember the one that we're doing it for is aware of it. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's court is always full of justice. I mean that we do wrong to somebody and we may get away with it in this world, we've got away with it in this world, it doesn't mean that we are now scot-free and nothing is going to come, we're not going to be held accountable at all. The court of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is very different. Here we can even get away. We can be guilty and be escaped by being by the verdict of non-guilty. But that is here in this world. The courts in this world, the qazi as well, the judge, they can make errors. Because they are insan after all. But in the court of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there will be no errors there whatsoever. There will be no bribery there either. And at the same time, the witnesses will also be 100%, and there will be no tampering there whatsoever in the court of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There will be no escape in that court of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that person who even feels in this world that look, they are losing out and they're not getting any justice, then they should not feel hurt about it. Because that is just with regards to this world. In the hereafter, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will definitely give justice to somebody. So that is going to happen. But when it comes on our side, our duty is that we should always be just towards other people. And what we do not like for somebody else, why would we like that for ourselves? Just when we do not like that somebody should be talking ill of our situation, our family situation, our home situation, domestic situation, whatever it may be, then why do we start speaking ill of other people? Just the way we do not want that others should wish harm upon us or think bad about us, then why do we think bad about other people? And why do we wish wrong for other people as well? And this is something that is also prevalent in the ummah, wherein we become happy at the loss of other people, rather than us being happy with the happiness of somebody else, and being pleased with that and giving them dua. We just want and we become happy with the loss of somebody else. And their happiness does not make us happy, but it creates what? It creates envy, it creates hasad in our hearts. Again, this is against the character that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala likes within us. And when the heart is pure, the heart is clean, then a person will be happy with the good of other people as well. Their happiness will make him happy. Meaning it will not disturb, even if it doesn't make him happy. It doesn't affect him, but it will not cause hurt to him, seeing the happiness of somebody else. And this is the cleanliness of the heart. As the one came, Nabi Kareem sallallahu ta'ala sallam was sat with the Sahaba radiallahu ta'ala, and another Sahabi went by. And when this Sahabi went by, Nabi Kareem sallallahu ta'ala sallam said that this is a Jannati. This happened one occasion, second occasion, 3 occasions this Sahabi went by. And Nabi Kareem sallallahu ta'ala sallam said that he's a Sahabi, he's a Jannati, this is a Jannati. Sayyidina Amr bin As radiallahu ta'ala who was there in the gathering, he now wanted to know that what is it that Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wasallam, or why is it Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wasallam gave him the glad tidings of Jannah. And he realized that this is somebody, he's not even sat in the majlis of Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wasallam, the gathering of Islam, he just went by and knows a Sahabi who is not so well known. There is no great mention with regards to his legacy of what he is doing and that. So he wondered, he wanted to know. So Sayyidina Amr bin As radiallahu ta'ala went to his house. And he went that the Arabs were such that if anybody, even a stranger came to their house, they would keep them and they would be hospitable to them. He stayed there for 3 nights. And he stayed there for what reason? He stayed there just to know that what ibadat does this Sahabi do. The Nabi Kareem sallallahu ta'ala said that he is a Jannati. So he has remained there for 3 nights. And now Mehman Awazi Khatam, now he's no longer a guest, so he departed from there. But before he departed from there, he asked this Sahabi to tell me one thing. Now look, in comparison and what I see, there's nothing unique that I see in you. There's nothing much that I see in you with regard to like, spending the entire night in ibadat or doing so much ibadat, exertion in that sense. But you're doing what needs to be done, which is necessary and that. And maybe Sayyidina Amr bin As radiallahu ta'ala even felt to himself that we are closer to Nabi Kareem sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wasallam. That I am even closer to Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, but we didn't get that tidings. So he said, look, this doesn't make sense to me. There isn't anything I see that is so great in you. So what is it that Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wasallam gave you the glad tidings of? To which he said, look, I do not know that. But all I can say is that with regards to my deeds and amal, and that you can see that look, there is nothing so much that I do. But if there is anything that I can think about, and that is, لَيْسَ فِي قَلْبِي غِشٌّ لِحَدٍ وَلَا أَحْسِدُ أَحَدًا. The only thing that comes to my mind is that yes, my heart is clean. That my heart is clean. I do not have any enmity towards anybody. Do not harbor any enmity towards anybody, and neither do I have jealousy towards anybody. That is the only thing that comes to mind. That is the only thing that comes to my mind. So Amr bin As radiallahu ta'ala then came back after the 3 days absence, and he came back to Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam saw him and said to him, had you brought the same heart as well, you would have also got the glad tidings of Jannah. There is no need for you to have gone there. If you had the same heart, brought the same heart, you would also got the glad tidings of Jannah. So what was the quality? That he had no enmity or hatred towards anybody. And the other was that he didn't have any hasad towards somebody, meaning his heart was as white as milk. He had a pure heart towards people. And that is a quality that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala greatly loves. But rather Nabi Kareem sallallahu ta'ala sallam, hadith Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said to Anas radiallahu ta'ala anhu, that the fact that your heart is free from any ghish, any enmity towards somebody, this is my sunnah. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said it 3 times to him. That if your heart, clean your heart from dislike for others, and the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said that this is from my sunnah. And whoever loves my sunnah is from me, and whoever is from me is in Jannah. So the cleanliness of the heart, Nabi Kareem sallallahu ta'ala sallam mentioned as being his sunnah. We do not regard it as sunnah, we regard a turban to be sunnah, the miswak to be sunnah, the beard to be sunnah, these things to be sunnah. But the purification of the heart, the cleanliness of the heart, that we do not regard to be sunnah. So we'll have all these other sunnahs in our lives. But then when it comes to enmity with people, hasad with people, jealousy, these things are still there in our heart and at the same time. And neither do we regard it to be important that we need to be remedying the heart, we need to be removing these things in our heart, and that we need to be making ourselves, that we need to be practicing this sunnah of Nabi Kareem sallallahu ta'ala sallam as well. The Nabi Kareem sallallahu ta'ala mentioned, وَهَذَا مِن sunnah. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa mentioned that this is from ذَلِكَ مِن sunnah. Nabi mentioned that this is also what? This is from my sunnah, with regards to the cleanliness of the heart. So as I mentioned to you, when it comes to insaf as well, Sayyidina Ammar bin Yasir radiallahu ta'ala mentions here, Ammar bin Yasir radiallahu ta'ala mentions here, that what the insaf should be, that whatever justice you want for yourself, you should be giving that to others as well. Treatment that you want for yourself, the same treatment should be given to others as well. So do not become happy and pleased and glad upon what? Upon the sadness of other people. Rather be a shoulder for them, be there with them in their sadness, and their sadness should make you sad as well. And in their happiness, be happy with them. So even if they have not included you in their happiness, it doesn't mean that because of that you cannot be happy for them either. From a distance as well, you can be happy for them and give them dua. And when they are in moments of sadness, do not celebrate upon their sadness, and then show pity towards them and have remorse and sadness towards them. When a person has these type of qualities, then that's when a person will find that, as the Nabi Kareem mentioned, "Man kana fi awni akhihi kana Allah fi awnihi." Whoever is then there for his fellow Muslim brother, Allah Ta'ala is there for him as well. So if he is going to have good qualities and he is going to react positively towards people in a manner that is pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will also deal with him in the same manner. That's why in another hadith, Nabi Kareem mentioned that a person who ridicules somebody because of some sins that he commits. He's committed sin, he's done something wrong, and now a person ridicules him. Thinks himself to be superior than another individual and makes him feel inferior, and he ridicules him, humiliates him because of the sin. Nabi mentioned that he will not die until Allah Ta'ala does not make him taste the same sin. He will not die until Allah Ta'ala does not make him taste the same sin. Meaning that the same humiliation. Yes, he committed sin. The person did wrong. But what rights do you have to humiliate him because of the sin that he has committed? The sin that he has committed. That's why this topic as well was diverting again. With regards to Gheebah as well, a person is a fasik, a fajir. Somebody commits sin. Is it allowed and is it permissible to make Gheebah of that person of the sin that they commit? And say this person is a sharabi, this person is a zani, this person is this, is a fraudster, he's this and that. That too the ruling is that if this person commits the sin in such a manner that he desires to conceal it, and he does not want people to be made aware of it, then it is not permissible to make Gheebah of that person. Even then it is not permissible, allowed to make Gheebah of that person. If that person, even though his sin is known to people, even though, this is the misconception people have, that because it is known, everybody knows. So because everybody knows, then it's fine for us to make gheebah of that person. He's a sharabi, kababi, whatever. The difference is that whether people know or not is not the matter. If he doesn't mind, or if he wants people to know, or he tells people, and he is fine with people knowing, then if you speak of that ill in him and that sin in him, then that will not be gheebah. But if people are aware of it, but he doesn't want people to know, not that he does it deliberately so that everybody should know of it, he tries to conceal it, but he doesn't conceal it correctly. Somebody has seen him and people have mentioned to everybody else as well now, so it's become viral. But he himself didn't want it to be viral. He himself did not want others to know, then it will not be permissible to make gheebah of that person, to speak ill of that person. However, if that person does it in such a manner that they themselves went and put it on Instagram and everywhere else, and they know that look, everybody is going to know about it, and then a person says, oh, he's a sharabi. Because why? He's put it, he's drinking away and he's taken photos of it and he's put that everywhere, he's posted it on his profiles here and there everywhere. We show that he doesn't mind, he's fine with it. Then it is allowed. Then it will be allowed if you speak ill of that person with that regarding that sin, then that will not be regarded to be gheebah. But Sayyidina Ammar bin Yasir radhiyallahu ta'ala mentions, al-insafu min nafsik wa bazlu salami fil alam. Meaning to, bazl means to spend. To spread. Who spread? What salam? And that too where? Not just in your home, in your town, in your village, in your city, town, but alam. Throughout the alam. Into every person it means. To spread the salam to every person. That is another. And again, this is also good quality. The same here, insaf, good quality. Salam, good quality as well. That why you do salam? Because you do salam because to greet people. Not just to greet people, but you're giving dua to people. A Kanjus won't even make salam because he knows that if I make salam to him, then I'm making dua for him. A Kanjus is so wretched that he doesn't make dua for anybody. And if a person goes to a Kanjus, that's why don't go to Kanjus for dua. Don't request him to make dua. He won't make dua for you. So because he's got fit in his Kanjus, is in his fit, so he's not going to make dua for you. Because he doesn't want anything good to come towards you. So he's not going to make dua, Allah Ta'ala, yes, give him this, that and that goodness and that. He doesn't want that, he just wants everything for himself. He's so Kanjus that he's not going to then make dua for anybody at all. He'll be Kanjus in his dua as well. So there are those who don't make dua for themselves, they might make dua for others. And there are others who make dua for themselves and they do not make dua for others. They won't be happy made dua to Allah Ta'ala. Allahumma rahamni wa Muhammad. Wala tarham ahadun ba'd. Allah give mercy upon me and Muhammad, nobody else. I used a dihati bichari, he didn't know much. So he made dua in this way, Allah may send mercy upon me and Nabi Kareem Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and nobody else. He was hoping the only rahmat of Allah khas just for us. We don't want it to be, maybe he thought that it will be divided, and if it's divided then we'll only get a certain amount. So if you're going to make that dua for everybody, for the whole alam, then you're going to get hamad, no, nothing at all from it. No, that isn't the case. Allah Ta'ala has so much in His treasures. Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala will give somebody full. That's why Isali Sawab is, but do not think that it will be distributed. So no, we can do just to 1-2 people only. You're not going to do Isali Sawab for the whole ummah. No, to make Isali Sawab for the whole ummah. By doing so, you will still get your full reward and they'll get the full reward as well. There is no deficiency at all in the treasures of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. So here too salam as well. Make the salam because you're making dua for somebody. And the same, you get the same salamati for yourself as well. That's the way insaf min nafsi, I mentioned to you. If you're going to be happy towards others, others will be happy towards you as well. And if they're not, it doesn't matter. The main is that Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala is happy with us. And the third thing that he mentions is وَالْإِنْفَاقُ مِنَ فِي الْإِقْتَارِ. Iqtar means poverty. And what does he mention? To spend in poverty. He mentions to spend in poverty, which is the last thing we would do in poverty. وَمَنْ قُدِرَ عَلَيْهِ رِزْقُهُ فَلْيُنْفِقْ مِمَّا آتَاهُ اللَّهُ. Allah Ta'ala actually says that, look, what is the solution, or what is the remedy to poverty? Allah Ta'ala says, spend. وَمَنْ قُدِرَ عَلَيْهِ رِزْقُهُ, upon whom his rizq has been made less for him, his rizq is tight upon him. فَلْيُنْفِقْ مِمَّا آتَاهُ اللَّهُ. he should spend from that which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given him. Allahu ba'da usri yusra, Allah mentions that after that difficulty and hardship, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brings wus'at towards him. So when a person is in poverty, it doesn't mean that now it means that do not spend because you're in poverty. It means that doesn't mean to spend in such a way that you have nothing left. But even in that condition where you have less, where you do not have much to give, then spend in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, spend generously, and then Allah ta'ala mentions that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give you more. فَلْيُنْفِقْ مِمَّا آتَاهُ, Allah ta'ala mentions. That spend in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give you. One person was in poverty, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam gave them the instruction of marrying. But we was scratched our heads, that's the total opposite, that's being bankrupt. That is going down the line of bankruptcy. Today's weddings and today's nikah, that's the way it is, isn't it? You need to be earning so much before you can present yourself or be proposal material. So you need to be earning so much before you can be proposal material, never mind actually getting to the marriage stage. And when you have passed that stage of being accepted as if a proposal material, then it's a case of now you need to be working another 10 years just to pay for the marriage. Work another 10 years for the marriage. So by that time already you're in old age. And then you do get married eventually. And when you eventually get married, then you've got all the debts of the marriage, the nikah and everything else to pay off. And on top of that, now you take on your head the mortgage of the house as well. So you've got maqaddam wa akhar, isn't it? You've got all past and present debts upon your head. That is the situation that we put ourselves in. Then Nabi Kareem said what? The solution and remedy to poverty is what? To get married. Because now you're going to get married and you can't be so confused. If you are going to be so confused, she's going to be where? She's going to be at the Shari Council. She'll go be at the Shari Council if you're going to be very confused. A lot of marriages break up because of that, because confused. A woman cannot live with somebody who is confused. If you're on your own, fine, you can live in that way. But now that you have a wife and children, then you cannot be stingy now. You can't be confused. They will feel that, they will know that, look, this person is confused. He hasn't got a big heart. He doesn't spend freely. She won't put up long with him. She won't put up long with him. One husband was so confused that he would not buy a vacuum cleaner for his wife. Why? Because you can use a brush and shovel. So because that is a means, isn't it? It doesn't cost much. It doesn't cost much, and at the same time it's cost free as well. No maintenance fees on it, and at the same time use it as many times as you want to. You don't have to pay for it. Vacuum cleaner, you still have to buy it, and along with that there's maintenance for it and the servicing, cleaning, whatever, but there's usage fee for it as well each time. So he wouldn't buy a vacuum cleaner because there was an alternate to it. So these are many such waqia as well. So here he says, al-infaq min ikhtar. When a person is in poverty, to spend at that time is also a sign of a characteristics of iman. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah Ta'ala gives whatever. And this is the quality of Nabi Kareem sallallahu ta'ala, that when Nabi Kareem was regarded to be ajwad al-nas, the most generous. Then you may wonder, but how come Nabi sallallahu was the most generous? When Nabi Kareem sallallahu ta'ala wasn't the most rich. Nabi Kareem sallallahu ta'ala wasn't the most rich. There were times when Nabi sallallahu ta'ala didn't have anything at all. Then how did Nabi Kareem sallallahu ta'ala become ajwad al-nas? How did he become the most generous? Because that is based upon, as I mentioned in Quran Tafsir on Friday as well, that this does not refer towards quantity. Like in Barakat, I was mentioning to you, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives rizq to everybody. But Barakat Allah ta'ala doesn't give to everybody. And what really matters is the Barakat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala over the rizq that a person has. Meaning the money that a person has. Allah ta'ala may give somebody rizq in abundance, but there is no barakat. So that rizq is actually just rizq, but not abundance. A person may have less in the form of rizq, but there is barakat in it. This is how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives. That's why one very important point I mentioned last week is that when you look at a person, Those who are money-minded judge everything according to figures in that. So they look at a person, when they see his house, they look at the person, they calculating immediately. They look at his clothing, they look at his food, they look at his circumstances, that how many years Maulana goes, Imam Sahib goes every year for Hajj, Imam Sahib goes every year for Umrah, Imam Sahib and his family, Imam Sahib and his family, and Imam Sahib, mashallah, has good family. They all go for Hajj, they all go for Umrah, they all go in Pakistan every year, they all going on holidays to India or here or there. So when we look at that, those who are money-minded, because for them everything is just money, money, money. So everything is just calculation. So for them, everything they see, their mind is already an automatic calculator. So when they see Imam Sahib, they just see Imam Sahib's wife and 3 children, Imam Sahib's wife 4 children, and immediately they come to the conclusion already, har ek aadmi ka itna kharcha. So where did Imam Sahib get that amount of kharcha from? So that's how such a person thinks, isn't it? He sees the house of an individual, the clothing of an individual, looks at the quality of it. If it's inferior quality, then his face is okay, that's understandable now. But this looks like a bit of a label brand. It looks a bit of a label or brand. Now it looks good quality, or maybe you can see the tag or something here, and you see that. And then you think to yourself as well, but when I went for Umrah, this was so many riyals jabba. This was so many riyals jabba that I couldn't even afford it at that time. I was too confused. That's why. So Imam Sahib at that time, that's jabba. So we look at Imam Sahib, we look at his jabba, and we already putting a figure in our minds. So we already thinking that how can Imam Sahib afford that? We go to see Imam Sahib, maybe Imam Sahib not too well done, we go to do his iyadat. When we go there, the Imam Sahib brings some biscuits or something there, we look at the biscuits as well, and we see that these biscuits are branded quality, it's not no frills and no name brand. What you would expect would be without any name on it type thing. This is proper Makvitis or Fula, whatever. And everybody looking at that, this cost, about past it last week in Asda, and this was at least £2, £1.50 or so a pack. Then again, the sums are in there. So many children, and he just must be this. And the whole time, he's doing all the sums there. Imam said, Sharma did you? But Sharma, he's doing all the calculations in his head. Even I can't, even we don't have so many this biscuits. And Imam Sahib doesn't bring just one flavor, he brings 2-3 different ones. So that's 2-3 different packets. And those who look at the utensils, they'll be just looking around everything. And, rather than just being there, they would be looking at the quality of the carpets, the settees, and the furniture, whatever else. And they look at all of these things and putting a price to all of these things. And as I mentioned to you, but many of those who are not here in Majlis as well, in Quran Tafsir, this is the risk from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the risk that Allah ta'ala gives. And one prime example, there's so many who can't send their children to private school. But alhamdulillah, so many are sending their children to Muslim private schools. Sending themselves to children to, and what somebody who is working in that saying that we can't afford to send our child to Muslim, so where should we school, and is this school better than that school? I said, but if you ask him about non-secular school, then they're all the same. No point asking me, is this school better than that school or not? No point asking me that. Yeah, I can probably just say to you, okay, you better send in this and then that school because of some reputation and that, but otherwise, the poison is the same. The poison is the same. The utensil may be different, but the poison is still the same. But then there's those who will say, we can't afford to send our children. But alhamdulillah, Imam Sahib, Imam Sahib, he's got 3-4 children, and alhamdulillah, they're all going to Muslim school. And they're all going to Muslim school. And again, that person who Allah Ta'ala has given a lot of money, and that who sees things only in the mind of money, money, money. Again, he sees Imam Sahib dropping off his 3-4 children outside a Muslim school. And again, he's now doing the calculation in his head that he must be how much fees, and then he wants to know, then go on and say, okay, Fulah school, what's the fees, what's the annual fees, and then he's wondering, how can Imam Sahib can afford 2,000 fees for 3-4 children here? And he just can't fathom that, he can't understand that. Why? Because he's just looking how money calculation, he's not thinking of the risk that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives, the barakah that Allah ta'ala gives. And this is haqiqat, and I mentioned last week, which is something, because a lot of people do say these type of things. And if you go to Muslim schools, as I mentioned, go their home time, dropping off time, and see The people there are not those who you regard to be high earning people. There will be those who are high earning as well and have chosen not to send their children to other private schools, but they're sending their children to Muslim private schools as well. Allah Ta'ala has given them that amount of hidayat as well. But there are others who are not in that category, but it's not a case of one or two, but alhamdulillah, few of their children and they're going there. They might be struggling as well, we do not know. And that's why a couple of days ago, this came in my heart as well, that just the way during the month of Ramadan, we have the appeal for sponsoring a Hafizul Quran. Sponsoring Hafizul Quran. And we do send our sponsors to overseas and other places and Hafizul Quran as well. And a couple of years, in the last couple of years, mentioning instead of that sponsor, an ustadi instead, more rewarding. This also came in my mind a couple of days ago, that there are those parents who, alhamdulillah, are sending their children to Muslim schools. And there will be those who will be struggling as well. It will not be easy for them to be able to send them, and there may be those who are making other sacrifices and compromises in order to send their children to Muslim schools. Why? Because they have that fikr for the education, for the Tarbiyah, for the sake of the iman of their children. So they're making that qurbani. Which is a big qurbani. 2,000 pounds, the annual fee is for one child. If that is 3 children, that is 6,000 pounds a year. 6,000 pounds a year is a qurbani that a person is going to make for 3 children to go to Muslim school. So there is qurbani that takes place. And on top of it, there is the barakah that Allah Ta'ala gives as well, but they're willing to undertake that. Send your children to normal school, non-private school, you're saving 6,000 pounds. It's very easy, that is. It is very easy option, very easy and affordable option as well. So there may be cases wherein that person is actually struggling. If a person wants to donate or sponsor their children as well, they'll get so much ajr and thawab. Why? Because one is the Islami diniyat that they're learning there, and on top of that, the fact that you become a means of them being able to save their children from whatever evil goes on outside non-Muslim schools, and you will become a means of the safeguarding of their children's iman, you'll get such a great reward, an amount of reward in that as well. That is also an avenue where a person can gain reward from. And maybe one, that's why, when it comes to chanda as well, Muslim schools struggle the most. Because when it's masjid, people will give. Madrasa, okay. They'll still give. But if it's just madrasa, no. Masjid, madrasa, okay. Masjid we want to give for sure. Madrasa is a bit less, but there's more reward in madrasa. And then when it comes to Muslim school, it's a school. So because it is just a Muslim school, and because a Muslim school, we don't want to give. And then we also complain with regards, oh, they have facilities. We don't send our children there because they don't have the resources, they don't have the facilities. Why? They don't have the resources, facilities, because they're not government funded after all. And we don't want to fund them at all. We don't want to give them the lillah. We say, no, that lillah will go to waste there. But in our time, lillah will not go to waste there at all, because this is a safeguarding of the iman of our children. That is how important these schools are. And the more we are able to support them, especially those who are in need of this type of support, then all the more. And where you do find that maybe some Islamic schools have gone down a more secular route than that, is when funding starts coming their way. And funding starts coming their way because they need funding, and then the only way is to get government funding, then they go down that route. And where that isn't available, or they do not want to go down that route, unfortunately we do not want to give our donations towards them at all, or fund them whatsoever. This is a rizq that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives. Barakat Allah ta'ala gives in rizq and rozi, that we should not look and start calculating, doing the calculation that how can Imam Sahab or how can Fulah Sahab and Fulah Sahab be earning, be in this type of a lifestyle, because this is the rizq and rozi Allah ta'ala gives, and the barakat that Allah ta'ala gives with it. Imam Sahab's wages may not be one that will pop a person's eyes out, but yes, they will there when you see how less it may be. But the amount and the quantity of barakat, because this is khalis, halal, 100% pure. And it's 100%, it comes from the khazana, from the treasury of the masjid. For who? For the one who is standing on the musalla, the one who sat on the masjid of dars. His whole dars earning is 100% pure. How can there not be barakat in that? How can there not be barakat in that? Not only just that Imam Sahib we talk about, any person for that matter who alhamdulillah may not be earning so much when it comes to figures, but is earning halal way in a trustworthy manner, and that Allah Ta'ala gives them, they stay away from haram and ma'asiyat. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives them barakat in their rizq, then what do we see? We see the ratio of barakat over the ratio of money that is there. That is how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives. So that jabba which you could not even afford there, Imam Sahib managed to afford it. Why? Because maybe Imam Sahib knows himself as well that it is not appropriate for him to go and splash out so much on that jabba because he can be spending somewhere else. But who knows, Allah Ta'ala may send somebody who gets that jabba as a hajj, the expensive jabba, knowing that, look, this is my Imam Sahib. The one who has done behind in every salah, the one who leads us in what? In our ibadat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We're standing away, we're standing in front of Allah Ta'ala. And He is the one who is our Imam, the one who is leading us in that. The one who is so busy teaching our children as well, and taught our children and their children and so many as well. Fikrman with regards to the iman of our children, disciplining our iman and disciplining our children as well. So maybe there might be those who have that love for Imam Sahib who will say, no, let me get this as hajjah for Imam Sahib. And that came as hajjah for Imam Sahib. And what we're doing is that how could Imam Sahib afford that? Maybe Imam Sahib didn't buy it. Somebody had the tawfiq and somebody gave that as hajjah to Imam Sahib, for example. And this is how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives it to Imam Sahib as well. As a Mufti Mahmudul Hasan Sahib Gangohi rahmatullah alayhi, when he used to have his mehman used to come to Chatta Masjid in Deoband. And when people used to come there, this is how Deoband, and in Deoband is not like the areas of Gujarat and that, you know, this is UP area. And as it is poverty there, people are not so rich in that. But Hazrat Mufti Muhammad Gangohi rahmatullah alayhi, on his dasrakhan, you would have international food that would be there. International food would be there. That the richest people in UP would not have those things on their dasrakhan as you would have on the dasrakhan of Mufti Muhammad Gangohi rahmatullah. Why? Because somebody from England would come and they would take things. Somebody from South Africa would come, somebody from America may come, somebody from Canada may come, and that would come on the dasrakhan. And Imam Haji Imdad rahmatullah alayhi as well spent so many days when he made hijrat to Makkatul Mukarramah as well. There were days wherein he would fall making tawaf, nothing at all. And then he said, mentioned that thereafter Allah Ta'ala opened up such that food would come on my dasrakhan from all over the world. People would send, somebody is going, send this for Haji Sahib, send this for Haji Sahib. From all over the world, things would be sent to them, and in this way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and whoever would go on that dasrakhan, those who would be rich in that, they would be astonished. How can this type of food, where has this food come from, where has it come from? So rounding off what we mentioned with regards to Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam bin Ajwad and Nas, this was with regards to ratio over that of the quantity. And that is the main thing in the month of Ramadan. Person may be very rich, but that person is very rich, 100,000 they have, but they give 1,000, how much they give 1,000, but they give 1,000 out of what? They give 1,000 out of 100,000. And then that person who has 1,000, and from the 1,000 they've given 100 pounds. So although here there's 1,000 maybe a lot, is more than that 100, but that 100 out of 1,000 is more in ratio compared to that 1,000 from the 100,000 that is there. So this is what Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam's Ajwad Nas, meaning with regards to the ratio of how much Nabi Kareem Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam would give. Hence a person who doesn't have so much can still be generous as well. Person who doesn't have so much, they can also give in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that will remove their poverty as well. Khair wa rahal, what I was mentioning to you, these 3 points. And the first was with regards to being just towards yourself, meaning what you desire for yourself, desire for others as well. And this is one of the remedies of gheebah as well. That just the way you don't want that somebody else makes your gheebah, speaks ill of you behind your back, then do not make gheebah of somebody else, nor speak ill behind their back as well. Allah Ta'ala grant us all understanding on tawfiq. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين.